Hello guys, Isaac Frank here, welcome back. In the previous video where we talked about string, I said in the next video we're going to talk about arrays. So this is it, my video on Solidity arrays. Okay, these are the points we'll go through in learning Solidity arrays. First on the list is what is an array? So in Solidity, an array is an ordered list of items that's indexed numerically, and the indexing starts at 0. So let's see how to define arrays. To define an array, we'll just create an array, simple array in here. To define an array, you choose the data type of the array you wish to make use of. So this time I'm creating an array of string. Use a string, and you put in the square bracket. You assign a variable to this array. I'll call this array names, and you can add your semicolon. Okay, so this is it. You've declared an array. You've assigned an array. So next we'll go into types of array, so we can see the types of array, how to declare different types of array. What are the types of array we have? We have the fixed size array and the dynamic size array. But in this tutorial, I'll kind of be comparing these two together so you can see the difference between them. And also, under these arrays, we have a dimensional array. We have a one-dimensional array, which is what we created here, and we also have multi-dimensional arrays. Multi-dimensional arrays are nested arrays. So let's go first with a fixed size array. A fixed size array is simply the data type, the array, and the number of items it should take. So this is a fixed size array. You're telling the compiler, you're telling Solidity that you want this array to have k number of items. So if I should create this, I can do int 5 array. So what I'm telling the compiler is I'm creating an array named array. Let's just use this with something else. I'm creating an array named IDs, and I want it to have just 5 items. So this 5 items will be of type integer, but it's only 5. It's fixed sized. We are giving it a fixed size. It can't grow more than this. Only 5 items it accepts. Dynamic size array is the type of the array. Just this. This is a dynamic size array. So to declare this, I can do this ID. So what I'm telling this compiler is that I have an array named ID. It can take as many as it wants, as much as elements. So this is when, let's say you have some levels, and you know how many levels you have, maybe 5 levels, and you declare that levels is equal to 5 arrays. So in the array you can input each level, input the 5 levels inside this array. Why this is let's say you're creating user database, and you know your app is out there, people can join, so you make use of a dynamic array. So this dynamic array doesn't limit users that can join your game or your channel, whatever you're building. This dynamic array is kind of open. So once new users keep coming to register, the array keeps expanding, it keeps increasing in size. So that's the difference between a fixed sized array and a dynamic array. And dynamic array increases. A fixed size array is fixed, it doesn't change. It's if you declared an array with 5 elements, it stays 5 elements. You can't increase it, you can't reduce it. But with a dynamic array, it keeps increasing. So now we've cleared what a dynamic array and a fixed array and how to declare arrays. The next thing we'll talk about is the dimensions of array. We have a one-dimensional array, we have multi-dimensional arrays. So what is one-dimensional array? These dimensions can work in a fixed array, can also work in a dynamic sized array. Multi-dimensional array are nested arrays. So one-dimensional array is an array that is not nested. So as you can see here, we have an array that takes 5 elements. It doesn't have any nested array like something like this or stuff. So as it doesn't have any nested array, it's a one-dimensional array. This is multi-dimensional array, sorry guys. A multi-dimensional array is a nested array. So it can also be a fixed array, it can also be a dynamic array, but it's a nested array. So for example of a multi-dimensional array, it's done like this: the data type, the first dimension, and the second dimension. That's how to declare a multi-dimensional array. So, but this is a two-dimensional array, but basically this is how to declare multi-dimensional array. It can be a fixed size multi-dimensional array. It can be a dynamic multi-dimensional array. So in this first one is fixed, a number is there, so you input a number, you make it a fixed array, but it's a multi-dimensional array. It's a nested array, but a fixed array. It has a limit of elements you can get. And the second one is a free array, so the nested arrays are free, open to keep appending files into it. So these are what multi-dimensional array is. So in Solidity, you can create a multi-dimensional array of I think the limit is 15 dimensions. So let's say I'm creating still use units 1 to 15 dimensional array. So in here I created an array that has 15 dimensions, as you can see here. So this is the limit of creating dimensions in Solidity. Anything more than 15 dimensions will give you an error. So let's say you need to copy this. Okay, I will add just name this 16 actually. Oh, I wrote 50. What the hell is wrong with me? Okay, so 16 dimensional array. If I should add one more dimension to this, and in here you won't see an error, but if I should go here, this is complete. Okay, I needed to make this public. Right, as you can see in the editor, you won't see any error, but if you check in your compiler, code won't compile because there's a stack too deep error. So what this means is that there's a stack too deep error. So it's just telling you that the dimension is too deep for you to start fetching out data. Once it's more than 15 dimensions, you can't create more. 15 is the limit of creating dimensional arrays. It cannot be more than 15 dimensions. So if I should remove this, you can see our error is gone because now we have the limits of the dimensional array. Now the syntax is the data type. If you're creating a fixed array, you input the number of items and then the variable. So I'll just clear this. Oh, sorry, I missed something. This is a one-dimensional array. Inputting the length of the array in here makes it a fixed array, but without the length of the array there, it makes it a dynamic array. So to create a multi-dimensional array, defining a two-dimensional array is kind of tricky in Solidity, because in other languages, if you came from other languages like JavaScript, what the hell is this called? If you came from other languages like JavaScript and Python and all those languages, and you came to learn Solidity, it might first be weird for you to come around this, because in other languages, to create a multi-dimensional array is something like this. If I'm not mistaken, an array. This is a multi-dimensional array. In Solidity, this is also a multi-dimensional array. What am I having? Okay, it's already declared. Okay, this is a multi-dimensional array also in Solidity, but there's something I'll show you, and I'll make this a 2 unit. I'll give it a reasonable name. I'll make this a 3. I'll make this a full name. I'll make this I'll call this, let's see, sorted. Okay, so for the sake of this tutorial, I'm creating an array that gets the user's full name, which is the first name and the last name. Then the sorted is it sorts each user's name. So in each array, since they're nested array, in each array it sorts maybe the names that begins with A, the letter A. It sorts it in one array, then the next array sorts the letter that begins with B, and so on. So looking at this code right now, you will imagine and you will think that this array is a fixed sized array of 2, which means it can't take more than 2 arguments. It can't take more than 2 arrays. Each of those 2 arrays can take multiple values. But in Solidity, that's not the case. In Solidity, defining multi-dimensional array is reversed to other programming language, and it's also reversed to logical thinking, because the way this is right now is just like this comes first and this comes second. But in Solidity, the total opposite. You're saying this comes first and this comes second. So we'll compare these two so that you can see the difference between it coming first. Is that a fixed array being first and being nested, and it's coming after a dynamic array. Create a function that adds to this array. Basically, I'll create a function, call this fill array. It's a public function, should not return any stuff. I've created a function, and I'll put full name push. It will talk about the member variables of arrays. Push is just a function that appends an element to the end of an array. So we're calling this array when pushing an element to it, so it adds whatever we input to the end of this array. So push the array, because it's a nested array, so we're pushing an array into an array, if that makes sense. So we're pushing, what we're pushing here is the first name, just call this first, and we're pushing the last name, last. Okay, let's make this a string. I was using an int statement, so I'll use this a string. Alright, so in here right now we are pushing an array to this array. Since it's a nested array is basically something like this. So this is the outer array and this is the inner array. This is the array that covers it. An array, all arrays have an outer array, which is this. We are pushing in this here. Then we're pushing this here. We're pushing this array, which is this outer block, and it accepts 2 values, which is this 2 block we are inputting here. So this is basically the visualization of this. So we can only keep adding multiple arrays to this, but each of them can only have 2 value, just 2 values. So that's basically what this code does here. When defining dimensional array in Solidity, the syntax is the reverse. Instead of it having only 2 elements that can add multiple arrays, it has multiple arrays that can add just 2 elements. So this is the visualization of what this code will be. Let me clear this. Let's look at these opposite examples so that you understand how this works. You should just copy this code and I'll just name this array 2. A fixed array cannot make use of a push function. As you can see here, sorted is a fixed array. The first element is a fixed array. Remember, the declaration and the defining of an array, a multi-dimensional array, is reversed. The last is the first element. Since sorted is a fixed array, it cannot make use of the push function. So we have to do sorted. We have to make use of indexes here, and indexes start from 0. So we have to index the first element. The first element is this, and it should equal this. We're just trying to say the first array is A. The first array is A, the second array is B, and the third array is C, because it takes us just 3 arrays. So we should call to, oh god, I think I'm on VS Code and I'm trying to hit Ctrl D. So we should copy this, index 1 and index 2. We've added some values to it. As you can see, it takes 3 elements, and this element can take whatever amount of values they need to take, which is what we are doing here. So once we get the index of the first element, then we can assign whatever value, how much value we need to assign to it. Same we did with the B and this. Why the other full name takes so many elements and can assign only 2 values to each of them. So we can duplicate this. We can keep adding this, keep adding this as much as I want, but the value, the inner value, which is 2, can never change. It will be always be 2. It can't be more, it's always 2, but it can be less obviously, but it's always 2. You cannot add extra value here. If I try adding extra value here, I'll get an error because the value, it accepts 2 elements. I'm trying to add 3 elements to it. So try this. Now we'll talk about accessing an array elements. So how do you access elements? Like I said, you use indexes to access elements, but what about these multi-dimensional elements? How do we access multi-dimensional elements? The syntax is this. So you get the first index and then the second index. I'll show you what that means. The indices are always 0 base. Let's do this, and this is 0. Let's use something like a dictionary if you guys understand this better. This is a dictionary. The first element, which is 0, is pointing to lots of elements. Then the second element, I should make this. The second element, which is 1, is also pointing to lots of elements and lots of elements. Okay, so once we get the 0, which is this, it goes in here. There are lots of elements here. Once we get the 0, which is also the first element, it picks up this element. So it's based on indices. So it keeps picking up by index. So once we go to the 0 element, the first element, and we pick the second element, which is index 1, since it starts from 0, this should be our result. So that's how arrays work. Let's create some functions to get some names out of here, and I'll create so we're trying to get these elements. To do this, we know the first element is index 0, and index 0 doesn't have a blessing. The index 0 is for letters that's beginning with A. Index 1 is letters that begin with B, and index 2 is letters that begin with C. We are trying to access a letter that begin with B, so we'll go into the index 1 of sorted. To do this, let's store this in a variable. We could just directly return this, but I want to store in the variable. Let's call this. Let's call this. Okay, so we get sorted. We get the index 1, which is the second array, which is this, and then now we've gotten the values in here. We need to get one of these elements, and this blessing is at index 1. Put in index 1 in here. This should return, and we should return blessing. Let's try getting Amy. So just copy this code. Amy is at index 0, which will change it to index 0, the first array. So the first array returns all this value. We need to pick out Amy. Amy is the third element. Since Amy is the third element, using the programming indexing of 0, we'll count the 0, 1, and 2. So Amy is at index 2. So we input this 2. Let's deploy this once more. Okay. We need to fill in the array. Okay, we'll try getting the blessing. As you can see, we got blessing. So if we try getting Amy, you can see we also got Amy. So that's how we access array. We access array through indexes or indices. Inline arrays or arrays literals are written like an expression. Like in here, we declared a variable, and we use a function to input values into this array. But in inline arrays, you just have to string. This is an array, right? Just call this string, and let's call this colors, and we assign it directly. Let's call this colors, and let's call this array. We call this red, RGB, red, green, and blue. So this is an inline array. We assigned it directly, I don't know if we could push to it. Let's check if we could push to it. Okay, yeah, we can push to an inline array. If we have some data already that we want to set, we can do this to set it. Then users can be able to add more data to it using the push method. But if it's you can also declare a fixed array also. But if it's a fixed array, know that the push doesn't work. You have to make use of indexing. So this is it for inline arrays. I'll just clear this. There is one also called the memory array. Memory arrays are created in function and they're stored in the memory location. So they're not persistent. Once the function stops running, the array is dead. Just quickly declare it here. Using the same syntax, we'll make use of let's use a string. We'll give it a memory, is a local variable, a memory variable. Give it a memory storage unit, and we'll give it a variable name of x. The syntax for declaring a memory array is totally different from all this, from what you see here. To declare a memory array, after setting the array, you have to set the size of the array. So memory arrays are always fixed. So to do that, you make use of the new keyword, the new, and the array syntax again, and then the size of the array. This is kind of confusing to get used to. This is kind of confusing to get used to. First, you declare the type and also notify that it's an array. You make sure it's in a memory storage, and you give it a name. Then you assign a new array in this size in here. So this is what it does, and obviously the push function won't work. The push function won't work because this is a fixed array. So memory array are fixed array. You can't declare a dynamic array when you're declaring a memory array. So this is it on the memory array, right? Next we'll talk about is the members of an array. So there are two built-in members of the array, the push and also the length. The push element, as you can see here, inputs a new data of the same type into the array, and also we have the length member variable. I can full name, then the dot notation, and the length member variable. We're deploying our contract. Once you try getting the length will be 0 at first because obviously the array is empty. Okay, let's try filling the array. Okay, we'll fill in some data. We try getting the length. As you can see, the length is now 5. We fill in again and we get the length. Length is 10. Basically, that's what the length member variable does. It gets the total elements in the array. Next, we'll talk about returning an array from a function. Array as return value. As you can see, since we've been making use of Solidity, we've been returning strings and integers and stuff like that. But now I'll show you how to return arrays from a function. So to return an array, let's just let's see. Okay, I'll create an address here. Address is a type of addresses. So I'll create an address, make this an array. I'll call it user address. So I've created an array, a dynamic array, one-dimension array. So I need a way to populate this array. I just want to, what do I name this? User address. I just want to get user address and push some data to it, an address to it. Remember in when we talked about variables, we talked about inbuilt variables like the msg.sender. So this returns the address that's called this function, which is this address over here. So I'm trying to anyone that calls this function should be added as a user. And then I need to close this. So this is for populating our address. We need a way to get back all the addresses that have been added to this user. I'll create a function here, and I'll call this get addresses. Is a public, is a view, which returns, I want it to return address. And as you can see, it's just like we're initializing an address, but one thing here is when a function returns a value, it should be a memory. If not, this won't work. So we just make this a memory, and then we'll do this. So we are telling this function to return an array of address from the, so we are telling this function to return an array of address. So in here, we can just return the user address, and then we should deploy this contract. Should deploy this contract. Okay, contract has been deployed. If we try getting the address, we should get nothing. Yeah, as you can see, it returns an array that is empty because we haven't added value to it. So let's try adding a value. Where's the add? Okay, this is add address. Let's just add as much as we can. Let's see. As you can see, it's down here, it's adding. Okay, let's try getting the value. It returns an array of type address, and the values are separated by comma. If you can see, there's a comma here, there's a comma right here, and there's a comma, so it returns the value of address. So let's go through what we learned again today, and we learned what an array is. We knew is a collection of a particular data type in using in a single variable. We learned how to define array, define multi-dimensional array, how to define a single dimensional array. We learned about the fixed sized array and the dynamic array. We learned about accessing array using index, which is what we did here. Using index to access array and reassigning it to another value. And we talked about inline arrays, which are these assigning arrays on a single line of code without having to use a push and stuff like that. We talked about memory array, which we did here. We declared an array in a function, which is a memory array, using this weird syntax. We talked about type member, which is the push function, and the push function, and the length variable, the length member variable. We talked about return type, which is what we did here, returning an address from a function. So these are all you need to know about Solidity arrays. With this, you can build stuff on your own. In the next video, I think we'll talk about enums. So if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, drop them in the comment section below. Otherwise, as always, thanks for watching.